Hi all, my name's Erica, aka ECR Horses 1901, and today we are going to continue ranking every classic scale Breyer horse mold. This is the third video in the series, so if you've missed either of the first two, I will be sure to link to the first video at the end of this one. Let's not waste any time and jump into today's molds, starting with Morgan Stallion, aka Mandrake, introduced in 2007, sculpted by Summer Prosser. So this guy was the promotional model for that year's Fun Day, which is still something that Breyer does every October, although they no longer create a special model for the occasion. This mold is pretty nice, and it rounds out the Morgan family, which also consists of the Morgan foal and mare, which we talked about last time. He's had a fairly equal number of realistic and decorator colorways. My favorites are probably his original model, Mandrake, who you've been seeing on the screen, described as a shaded chestnut, and Aura Verde, a 2016 BreyerFest store special of 1,000 pieces, who, as you can see, was green clareware. The mold is fine, but in some pictures his head appears a bit clunky compared to the rest of his body. Also, for some reason, Breyer really wants to eat him, as he's appeared with both cupcake and red velvet colorways. He is C tier. Mustang foal, introduced in 1976, sculpted by Maureen Love. We've seen some really great classic scale foals, and we've seen some really questionable ones. This guy is one of those that is objectively not good, but he also oozes vintage charm, and I just like him. He's been used a ton over the years. You list something, he has done it. From Sears holiday catalog sets, to test runs, to even a BreyerFest live auction model twice in 1995 and 1997. My personal favorite is from the 2003 Walmart Mustang series set, Zephyr and Sundance, Grollo charging Mustang with done foal. That color with those markings just really suits him. He's not an S tier, but I can feel good about putting him in A tier. Mustang Mare, introduced in 1976, sculpted by Maureen Love. Speaking of obviously vintage molds, it does not get much more vintagey than this. I do like her. I think she shows a lot of personality, but I don't think it will surprise anyone when I say that Breyer has not used her a ton. The last time she was part of a regular run was in 1997 as part of the Appaloosa Mustang gift set, and she's only reappeared twice at all for any reason since then. Once was in 2001 as a BreyerFest silent auction lot with this fun, glossy rainbow Appaloosa coat pattern. Sadly, we don't ever have selling prices for the silent auction lots, so we will never know what she sold for. There was another rainbow, this is an aside, there was another rainbow pattern auction lot on the Lonesome Glory mold that year, and that ended up on the higher end of selling prices at $1,500. Why do I have a feeling that the Lonesome Glory mold is probably a little more appreciated than our Mustang Mare? Also in 2003, she appeared somewhere as part of a test run Cloud Mustang family set. I can't hate it. Don't come at me, but we have another A tier. Mustang Stallion, introduced in 1976, sculpted by Maureen Love. This guy is easily my least favorite of the three 1976 Mustangs. And it's not like he's worse than the mare, but if I need to pick favorites, and I do, he is just not it. In fact, there are only two models on this mold that I like. The first is a variation of the 1998 through 1999 regular run 3-piece family gift set. It's described as a light Grollo Pinto, but it looks more like a red Roan Pinto, if that can be such a thing. Anyway, I'm here for it. Also, again, I have to bring up the 2003 test run Cloud Mustang family set where he appears with this really lovely light palomino colorway. I hate to say it, but I kinda have to go D-tier on this one. Paint Kit Horse, introduced in 2015, sculpted by nobody knows. I'm not actually ranking this horse, so I don't know why we're mentioning it. Pegasus, introduced in 1984, sculpted by Chris Hess. Yes, this is just the Lippes Honor Stallion from the second video, with wings. He's had a spotty usage history, only appearing as a regular run 3 times, from 1984 to 1987, with the model you see here, from 2002 to 2004, and lastly, from 2017 through 2019. Other than that, he's also been a Toys R Us and JCPenney holiday catalog release. Look, I've come around to Flocky since I first got into collecting, but I am not feeling this one. In 1998, a chalky version was a Breyer Fest live auction lot, not that exciting unless you're big into chalkies, and it sold for $550, which was low mid-tier that year. The Lippes Honor mold itself was C-tier, but the only Pegasus I kinda like is the Pearly Lavender Cosmos from 2017 through 2019. It's gonna be another D-tier. Playful Arabian Foal, introduced in 2024, sculpted by Sarah Minkowitz. To the best of my knowledge, this mold has only been used once for the Love and Hope Rainbow Decorator set. I like the mold a lot. I appreciate that it's all gangly foal legs, but I am not crazy about this particular colorway on him. I think he'll look great with a realistic coat, however, so I will put him in A tier because I am optimistic for his future. Polo Pony, introduced in 1976, sculpted by Chris Hess. I am torn about this mold. I like him, but he does not seem to show well. And since that's something I care about, that is a big mark against him. Since his release, he's only been part of 2 regular runs, the original, which again you see here, from 1976 through 1982, and then from 1998 to 1999. Since then, he has appeared every handful of years in various limited iterations. Most recently, this was as the 2023 web special Santino Polo Pony. This is one that I went in for. It was another gambler's choice, with the 3 options being this matte chestnut Appaloosa, a glossy dappled Dunalino, and what's described as a Bay Manchado. I ended up with the glossy Dunalino, who I just refer to as a Palomino, honestly. I don't know. And that was my favorite, so I was pretty happy about that. But yeah, I like this mold, and I wish that it was better appreciated. B tier. Prancing Arabian Mare, introduced in 2024, sculpted by Sarah Minkowitz. This is the companion of the Playful Arabian Foal that we just saw. Not as big of a fan of the mare, but again, my mind could be changed if she was in a realistic colorway. So far, she has only appeared in the Rainbow set and was Breyer's choice for the 75th anniversary classic scale limited edition decorator, Radiance. If you saw my video on the 2025 new releases, you'll know that this is not my favorite. Until we see some different options on this mold, she is going C tier. Quarter Horse Foal, introduced in 1974, sculpted by Maureen Love. Back to some vintagey goodness with this guy. Unfortunately, unlike some of the other vintage family sets that we've seen, the quarter horses do not stand out to me. And spoiler alert, of the 3, the foal is my favorite. As per usual, this mold has been used roughly 18,000 times in both regular run sets and a wide variety of special editions. Unfortunately, many of this foal's models have been either simple chestnuts or bays, so not many jump out at me upon first glance. But if I had to choose, my favorite on this guy has to be Kit from the Classics Paint Horse family, which was the set from the 2017 Vintage Club with 500 sets made. At least this Grello Overo colorway gives us something to look at. It's a C tier, mostly because I find the models on this mold to be quite boring. Quarter Horse Mare, introduced in 1974, sculpted by Maureen Love. We go from my favorite family member to my least favorite. She is very long and doesn't come off particularly quarter horsey to me. Unlike the foal, though, she's had some interesting colorways over the years, though again, I can't help but say that her appearance in the 2017 Vintage Club set as Sadie is my favorite. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here. She is D tier, and that's that. Quarter Horse Stallion, introduced in 1974, sculpted by Maureen Love. He's not the best, but he's fine. For unknown reasons, I think he actually looks better in simple colorways than either the foal or the mare in this set. Take this very old school blanket Appaloosa, for example, from the 1984 Montgomery Ward holiday catalog. I can't hate it. He's actually been a Breyer Fest live auction lot 3 times, but 2 of those were in 1993, so we do not have the selling prices for that year. We do have it for 1996, however, when he was described as a Rose Dunn classic quarter horse stallion. We don't have pictures of that model, but he sold for $600, which was solidly middle of the pack price-wise that year. For this guy, I think C tier makes sense. Rearing Mustang, introduced in 2019, sculpted by Maggie Bennett. This is one of those super rare molds where I like every single model that has been made on it. Super rare. I think I've been kind of sleeping on it because classics aren't my favorite scale and I don't really seek them out. But as I was going through the list, particularly on Identify Your Breyer, I have literally 0 complaints. My favorite is probably Brandel, who was my favorite of that entire Element series. To jog your memory, when that was released, I very confidently stated that I was just gonna get a random one straight from Breyer because I'd be fine with any of the choices. And then I got the silver one, and I really didn't like it, and I ended up trading him away for a stablemate at some point, so yeah, that's how that turned out. This mold looks great in both deco and realistic colorways. For example, this is the Dark Bay Pinto Nayati, who was a 2020 web special. My only criticism, even though I said I didn't have any, is that I don't love his I'm about to fall over backwards pose per se, but that's really it, and I can get over it. He is S tier. Rearing Stallion, introduced in 1965, sculpted by Chris Hess. This is a complicated guy to rank. I adore the traditional scale fighting stallion. He is 100% S tier. But that does not translate over into the smaller scale version. Not going to lie, part of that is there isn't a lot of showing prowess to this guy, but I also think he looks a bit cutesy and pony-like, particularly in his little face. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just that's not what I want from my fighting stallion. By the way, in my opinion, the stablemate does not have the same problem. He truly appears to be a scaled-down version of the traditional scale. Well, regardless of my opinion, this guy has been used a lot and has been a regular run right up to or through 2020. For a classic scale mold, he has been a Breyerfest live auction lot 4 times, as a metallic steel gray in 1994, a spotted dun in 1995, a metallic black in 1996, and a red roan in 1998. Each year, his selling price was low, middle to solidly middle of the pack. I only personally own one of these guys, not the auction pieces, but one of the rearing stallions, and that is Little Chaparral, who was a 1993 Breyer show special with 7,050 made. I got him because I have the original Chaparral, who was a limited edition, I want to say in 1993, but I could be wrong on that. Anyway, he was one of my favorite models when I was growing up. All of this to say, the rearing stallion gets to live in B tier. Reflections Mustaino, introduced in 1996, sculpted by Rowland Cheney. We've seen a handful of models from the Mustaino series at this point, but this is... Okay, Reflections Mustaino take 3. We've seen a handful of models from the Mustaino series at this point, but this is, I believe, the only one of those molds that has had exactly one model on it, and that was the original run as stated in 1996. It is interesting that he never made any other appearances in such as the America's Mustang series or anything else. I mean, he is not a good model conformationally, but most of the Mustainos haven't been, and that hasn't stopped them. Strangely, very strangely, I like him a little bit better than the others that we have seen. Nevertheless, I cannot in good faith put him into S tier, so he goes into D tier with several of his brethren. Rojo, introduced in 1995, sculpted by Rowland Cheney. This horse is actually part of the Mustaino the Messenger series as his yearling. Unlike the last mold we just looked at, this guy did become a staple of the America's Wild Mustang series, appearing in 6 of those sets between 2001 all the way to 2014. He was last seen as part of the regular run Clouds Encore set as a silver blue roan, which was available between 2015 and 2018. He's not the best, but he is better than many other molds in this series. C tier. Ruffian, introduced in 1977, sculpted by Chris Hess. I might get unhappy comments for this, but of the classic scale racehorse molds, Ruffian is not one of my favorites. I have appreciation for the real-life horse, who sadly broke down during her 11th race and had a pretty horrible end due to those injuries. But she was a really nice-looking horse in real life. And in my opinion, this model just does not do her justice. I much prefer the later portrait model that was done on the traditional sized Ruffian mold in 2006. Well, this is another one of those examples where, despite how I feel, Breyer obviously feels otherwise, and she has been used a ton. Most recently, she was seen in 2019 as part of the Running Wild set, alongside a very nice Morgan Foal model. This mold has never, at least to this point, been used for a Breyer Fest auction model, but has been part of several limited edition runs. This includes the questionable Clareware Union Jack horse from 2012's Breyer Fest, and on the opposite end of the gaudiness scale, a really plain gray as a 500-piece special run for the 2014 World Equestrian Games. I don't want to put this horse in D tier because it's not so bad, so let's do C tier and know in our hearts that it's C-. Running Thoroughbred, introduced in 2017, sculpted by Kathleen Moody. This is a newer mold who has been consistently used since his introduction. I must say, for me, he's kinda like the Smarty Jones traditional scale mold though, in that he reminds me more of a galloping stock horse breed than a thoroughbred. And so I'm not surprised that more often than not, despite the mold's name, he has been used for breeds other than thoroughbreds. That said, there are only 2 models on this mold that stand out to me. One is Boogeyman, who is a Halloween horse from 2018. Granted, this is not a top Halloween pick for me compared to many of the other Halloween models, but honestly that could be a whole other video, maybe this October. Then there is this chestnut leopard Appaloosa who came as part of the 2019 Kids Club Deluxe membership pack. Yes, the shading is in fact odd, and I probably shouldn't like this one, but I don't have a lot to work with here. He's a C tier just because of the lack of models that I truly enjoy. Okay, I am not normally stumped with how to pronounce a horse's name, but this one I am truly unsure. So for lack of knowing, this is Sagar? If you know, please tell me. S-A-G-R. Introduced in 1983, sculpted by Chris Hess. Efforts have been made to make this horse look really nice. Sadly, nothing can compete with the fact that this mold's neck is like the length of its back. And that's too bad, because I feel like if it was a tiny bit shorter, I could quite like this mold. Just look at Mistletoe from the Mistletoe and Crystal set from 2008. We've got the nice dappling, and the pearly coat, and the detailed eye, and there's some shading. And there have been other times where the coloring is great, but I just can't with that neck. And I thought Touch of Class was bad. I'm going to be generous and put him in C tier, but he honestly belongs in D tier. I just really do not want him to be there. However, we'll see if he stays. And that brings us to today's final horse, Scamper, introduced in 1998, sculpted by C.M. Herden. My feelings on him are pretty similar to all of the other action horses that we have seen so far on the classic scale. He's fine, but looks a little funky because of the action that is portrayed. In this case, he is running barrels. That said, I somehow think this one is a little bit more successful than the others. He has not been used a ton, and the last time he was a regular run was 2020, when he had been a regular run since 2019 as part of this barrel racing set. In 2018, he was a Breyer Fest special edition with just 750 pieces made. As you can see, he came with 3 barrels, but otherwise was not anything too remarkable. Back in 1999, he was a live auction lot. Although we don't have a picture, it is described as a black blanket Appaloosa. He sold for $750, which was high middle of the pack for prices that year. I think it's another C tier, but as with Sagar, S-A-G-R, by the skin of his teeth. So this is how our tiers are currently looking. We now have 5 in S tier, 10 in A tier, 12 in B tier, 18 in C tier. We added 9 to this tier today alone, 10 in D tier, and still just 3 in F tier. This was the only tier that we did not add to today. Shocker. And that's all for this time. I don't want to keep dragging out this series, so the next videos will be dedicated to wrapping it up. In other words, the next video will be number 4, and we will wrap up talking about the rest of the classic molds. And then there will be a 5th video in which we kind of go back, see if any of the horses get shifted around, and I'll just give you some stats about who are my favorite makers, for example. It'll be very similar to what I did when I tier ranked all the traditionals. After that is over, I will make a quick video addressing my top secret project because I think my plans have fallen through, but I haven't truly decided yet. I haven't forgotten though. As always, if you liked today's video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing if you haven't already. Also feel free to leave your thoughts down below. Thank you for being here today, and I will see you next time.